Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Berkeley Alumni's Pass the Mic, where we pass the mic to you. My name is Jaquel Illy.
I'm Patrick Pharma.
Yes, and we are the dynamic duo that you guys will be hearing from. So, one thing about us, we travel so many different places, and I think that is what makes us kind of special. So, boss, where are we today?
Today we are in Nashville, Tennessee in the Southern Ground Studios.
Yes. And not only are we in Nashville,
Yes.
but we're also recording our second live podcast. Woo!
Yes.
Go us! Go us.
We are in the middle of season 3 of the podcast, and tomorrow is actually the second episode of season 3, and that is our first live episode. And this episode will be coming out next month in December.
Yes.
Because we're in November now, which I remembered.
Man, I thought that today was Wednesday, so you're not alone in that. So we just want to say thank you all for coming here and helping us, in our second live episode. We are super excited about today. And today, who are we interviewing?
We are interviewing the one and only Matt Mangano.
OMG. Yes, we are interviewing Matt Mangano, who is the iconic bassist for the Zac Brown Band and studio manager for Southern Ground Studios, where we are today. So let's give it up for him. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I am excellent. How are you all?
We are well.
Doing well. I had some hot chicken last night at Hattie B's, and I had a lot of time to walk around because my hotel wasn't ready yesterday. So
Walking is good after hot chicken.
absolutely. I saw people starting their sets at like 9:30 yesterday morning. I was like, this goes hard here. This is very, very serious. Yeah.
Yes. I'm excited to try some Hattie B's. So, let's get started.
Let's do it.
All right. So we want to start with what's going on right now. Like we know that there is a Las Vegas residency at the Sphere. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I sure can. Yeah, so we are playing 8 shows at the Las Vegas Sphere, which I'm sure everyone knows about the Sphere, but Zac talks about it in a way where he thinks it's the ultimate canvas for an artist, because of the insane visual aspect of it, and then the audio, it's true multi-sensory experience. So the minute that place opened up, he was there touring it, even before it opened, and he was planning in his head what a show would look like from us there. So he has willed this into existence.
Wow.
So he's been working hard on it since the Sphere opened up. So we have 8 shows. It will start December 5th, and it'll continue through January 17th.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So, and it's been, I would say 18 months or longer that we've been actually planning, working on the show. So, and there's a whole lot involved in that, as you could imagine. So there's multiple media companies that we're working with. So film companies, the Sphere itself has a huge staff of people that they're owned by Madison Square Garden properties.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So MSG has a whole divisions for audio, for video, and I mean Sphere alone, and we're talking, and these are people who are working at a really high level in their field. And I couldn't even tell you how many people are on staff there, but they have offices in Burbank and in Las Vegas. So a lot of the video production work happens in Burbank. As a matter of fact, we did a site visit a couple weeks ago, and we were with Sphere Las Vegas people and Sphere Burbank people, and they didn't even know they hadn't even met. But
there's some people from the conservatory I haven't met, so I totally get it.
But yeah, so from the video to the audio, and the audio system is a whole other story, because you're surrounded by 64 different speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
And to the level of detail to which these speakers are tuned and designed, it's insane. The way they're controlled, it's basically you can 3D map your So let's say you have sound effects as part of your sound design. You can 3D map those in the software and in the dome. So you're seeing the dome. You can move them all around and place them with your faders and panners, and you can get sounds. I mean, it's kind of like, think about your home surround sound, but on the highest level of steroids.
So with this different type of like experience that you're going to be giving to the audience that comes, what is something that you're hoping that they leave with? Like, what do you want them to take away from this immersive sensory vibe?
Well, me personally, I hope everyone just leaves safely. I was watching the content in the dome, and there were a couple times where I had to sort of look down for a second because it's a little dizzying.
Okay.
It can be.
Caution.
Go sober, people.
No, totally. And I've talked to other people who have been and said, yes, go sober for sure. And also the stairs, the stairway in the auditorium is kind of steep. So,
Oh boy.
I don't know. But I mean, I hopefully Zac is trying to tell a story. So it's a sort of the story of his life and struggles and what's brought him to this point. And so, that hopefully you get a better picture of the story, and you're entertained, and you see and hear our music in a new light.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I always have one question that is just kind of no one cares about, but it just fascinates me. Is there ever a point when you're in the sphere and you're rehearsing, and then all of a sudden like an error happens and you just like get like a whole blue screen in the...
I don't know. So we actually haven't rehearsed in the sphere yet. We won't get to rehearse in the dome until the week leading up to the show.
Okay.
First week of December. We've been rehearsing in a sound stage down in Georgia. So they have our stage set up just how it's going to be.
Nice.
And it's kind of cool because the stage, all of the guitar tech world is built under the stage. So it's a whole other world down there. So you walk down the steps and then you go under the stage, and all the guitar tech stations are under there. Audio is under there. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge undertaking.
I bet,
so even the rehearsals are in a huge, sound stage. So I don't know. I'll tell you in a couple of weeks when we're there.
Thanks.
We'll
Hopefully
follow
not
up.
during the show, but you never know.
No, but it sounds exciting.
But I know that during the Dead and Company show, they actually had a visual that was designed to look like that. So I didn't see it in person, but I saw a video of it, and they had error messages pop up on the screen, and everyone, you would think that it was glitching out until you realize there couldn't be that many error messages. And I have no doubt that was one of John Mayer's ideas.
Oh, cool. So let's talk about the studio we're in. So we are in Southern Ground Studios. Can you just tell us a little about it? It's super beautiful. It's a lot of character. I love everything on the walls and the decorations. So what is your role in this studio?
So I am the de facto studio director. We actually unfortunately, we don't have a staff anymore. During COVID, everything shut down, including this facility. So there's no one here to run it anymore. So prior to that, when the studio opened in 2012, I was not yet in Zac Brown Band, but I was working for Zac. He had a production company and record label. So in all of that, I was helping him make records. I was working out of my own home studio, and I sort of convinced him to start looking at, hey, maybe we should find a place that we could record drums and have, a bigger sound. And so we started looking around town, and by accident stumbled upon this place. So he decided to make the investment and bought this. This has been a studio in some capacity since 1968.
Wow.
It was built prior to that around the turn of the century. So between 1897 and 1903, it was built as a church.
Wow.
And
I can see
in
that.
68, a man named Fred Foster, who owned Monument Studios and Monument Records. So Monument is famous for Roy Orbison. He bought this place, converted it to a studio, and it's been a studio ever since. So it's changed a lot over the years. So when Zac bought it, we went through and did a huge renovation. So replaced all the flooring, opened up the ceiling, exposed a lot of the old brick from the church days, and kind of brought it to what it is now. So my role at that point was studio director, and sort of took it from a private, personal studio or whatever, for the label, to becoming a public for hire studio. And then in late 2013, I got the call from Zac to come, hey, can you please come play bass? I need you. And so I went and did that, and sort of passed off that title to Brandon Bell, who was a great engineer, amazing engineer here in town. And he ran this studio after that. So, I sort of have always had a key, and worked a lot with Brandon during that time that we were commercial. And then again, like I said, after COVID, it shut down, and I still had a key. So I get to call myself studio director, whatever that means.
Beautiful. It's a gorgeous space. It's
amazing. Yes.
You can check out some of the photos at Instagram at Berkeley Alumni.
All right.
We're
going to take some photos and post them. So everyone, make sure before you leave here, you follow us on all of our social media. That's me handling everything. So just a little shameless
any
plug.
complaints, DM Jaquel.
But be nice. Thanks. But okay, so let's talk about your Berkeley experience. Can you tell us what your favorite thing to do around campus was?
My favorite thing to do around campus?
Yes.
And this was around the turn of the century, correct?
This is around the turn of the This was around the turn of the millennium. Honestly, I loved to just walk around Boston. That was my absolute favorite thing to do. We would walk. I would walk all the way to downtown at night, and then drink a bunch of beer, and then walk home. And actually, this is going to sound so funny. One of my favorite things to do was trespass. But what I mean is all of these townhouse buildings would have a continuous rooftop. So you could go down whole city blocks on one rooftop. So my goal would be to try to find an open door and get to the roof and walk across the rooftops.
You've given me a challenge for when I get home.
Oh my goodness.
It's so peaceful up there in Boston at night. So that's what I love to do around Berkeley. But on campus,
walking rooftops, got it.
I would hang out probably in the studios as much as possible, really.
Okay. Yeah. Studios. I think
Back then,
studios is
different.
like an
Basements
ongoing
of
thing.
150?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, in your life.
Yeah. I lived in the 150 building before it was renovated. So it used to be an old hotel. And so when they divided up the dorm rooms, all the rooms were these irregular sizes. So you'd have these little tiny closet rooms, and then other rooms right next to it that would be,
big.
have walk-in closets. And
oh, wow.
It's crazy.
Which one was yours?
We got the walk-in. Well, this is a funny story. So after my first year, I had met John Mayer, and we had become friends, and he was starting to write some songs, but he needed a roommate, and I needed a roommate. We both were kind of in a weird roommate situation. So we said, okay, let's be roommates. What room should we get? And he said, I know about this room. You should check it out. It's on the corner, and it's really big, and it's got a closet, and a walk-in closet. And so we checked it out, and I said, you know what? We could make that into a studio. Back to the studios. And
right.
I said, I have some recording equipment at my parents' house back in California. I'll ship it out on the winter break, and then we'll build it in there. So I shipped out. This is in 1998.
Wow.
So I had some what's now considered antiquated recording gear, but an Alesis ADAT. I had a Mackie mixer and an early Mac clone with an early version of Pro Tools. So I shipped it out, and we built this little studio into room number 737, which became the name of my production company, Studio 737 Music.
Wow.
And that was where we recorded a bunch of his early songs that he had written.
Wow.
Can I interject? I'm on, right? Okay. So funny story with that. So I was actually the RA of,
Yeah,
of them
Colleen.
in the dorms.
What was you doing?
Oh,
You
yeah.
allowed
Keep in
students
mind,
to
you
build
were
a
not allowed to play
You were not
music.
allowed to play in
exactly.
the dorms.
Yes. Come on, Colleen.
But I mean, I tried to whatever. When John Mayer first started making it big, and I was out in LA performing in a show out at Disneyland, and he knew I was going to be at the show, and he gave me a shout out because I let them record in the dorms
That's
as an RA, because they had the whole. I mean, and there were songs that on the first album that were recorded in those dorms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we usually had somebody standing watch for Colleen out the door. They would give us a little knock when
She's coming. She's
Yeah.
coming.
But no, it really evolved from there. I mean, it started out as just, okay, here's the equipment. It's here. What are we going to do? And it started out as just having a microphone there and hearing John play some riff or idea. He would start singing, and I would say, oh, hold on. That's really cool. Let me just wait 1 second, set up the mic, hit record, and then, there was whatever, name the song, and that was kind of how that recording, honestly, kind of my studio world career kind of started there.
I'm interjecting one more time. Do you remember, was the song called Victoria or Tori?
Yeah, it's called Victoria.
Literally,
Yeah.
he was playing as people would walk by, and Tori was walking by, and all this, and now there's a song it's like Tori walked by,
I don't
literally,
know why Tori came by,
and it's a great song. It's a great song, but yeah, came out of
Wow. Colleen, I wish you were my RA.
Colleen was the best RA we ever had.
that. Thanks.
I've heard that a few times. I haven't heard any contradiction to that.
Right. It's a testament to who she is. So shout out to you, Colleen. So I agree that, would you say that Berkeley, in having that dorm room studio, kind of amplified, would you say a love or an interest in studios? It kind of seems like, as we can see, studios have been always something of yours.
I would say so, yeah. And also, I did study proper production techniques at the school, and I loved being in the Berkeley studios at that time too. I was not personally an MP&E major; I was professional music, but all of our friends were. We had great friends who were MP&E majors who would, obviously you have to put together bands for your projects, and we would always try to make it just extra cool, when we did that. So, but I loved being in those studios, any studio really. I feel super comfortable walking in. I was just talking with Hank in the control room about how, this studio in particular, but a lot of studios have this too, where there's just a feeling of comfort. We walk in this control room here, and people come in and they have no problem laying down on the couch, taking a nap in there. It's so comfortable, it's warm, it's inviting. And I think that, it's kind of a testament to the design, that a lot of the details that Zac put into this place, and a lot of the thought that we all put into it to try to, just inspire something in you, whether it's a feeling of creativity or a feeling of calmness or comfortability or whatever, because when you're in that state of mind, you're free to be creative.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sometimes it seems counterintuitive, but if you're going to be in a space where you create, you have to be comfortable. You have to be comfortable with the people. You have to be comfortable with the environment. And so little things like having a place where you can take a nap, it's actually a big deal.
I will tell you that one of the features of this studio was that we had in-house catering. So we had a woman that worked here named Rebecca Wood, who was her title was Studio Mama. So she did all of our booking, but also she would, when you booked the studio, it would come with a catered meal. And she would get down in the kitchen, and she is an amazing chef, all organic, mostly local, grass-fed, all of those things. So what would happen is that you'd be recording, and right around, maybe an hour before lunchtime, you'd start to smell this food wafting up. And then lunchtime, you'd get to a point, lunchtime rolls around. Well, typically in a studio around town, lunchtime rolls around, you got to look at a menu. Someone has to order out, go pick it up, bring it back. By that time, you know, you may have lost some sort of momentum with what you're doing playing wise, or you just lose time.
Stomach's
You
growling.
get hungry. So
Yeah.
here it was great because right around the time it was ready, you know, you could just walk downstairs. There it is. And it was a great communal aspect of the place too. So I'm sure there's players in here that can attest to that, right, Luis? Yeah.
Eating the food. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a great thing about this place.
That's awesome. What is one thing that you learned from Berkeley that you took with you in your professional life?
One thing that I learned at Berkeley that I took with me in my professional life.
Hopefully there's at least one thing.
Professional
There's at
life,
least
professional career.
Yeah, right. I think I learned how to network, really.
Yeah.
Learn how to be around people who approached music and even life differently than myself and find some sort of common ground to make something better. I think that would probably be it. You know, it was the first time in my life that I had been in a situation where I was around so many different people from different walks of life, different places in the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, which is, I think it is college for a lot of people, right?
For sure.
But in the case of Berkeley, you have a more global reach and a more global student body. So, you know, we had friends from Mexico and Spain and rural Maryland. Like I had no idea that there was like, you know, people with Southern accents who lived in Maryland.
Yeah.
I always thought it was Baltimore, and we had a buddy who was from, you know, closer to West Virginia, but he had a thick Southern accent. And his name, we called him Wingnut because he was this guy who always had any tool or part that you would need. So he would come in and be like, hey, you need me to fix that shelf for you? I got some wing nuts or I got some whatever. And so he earned the nickname Wingnut. And he actually lives here in town. He's a guitar tech.
Oh, cool.
And another great Wingnut story is that he had a job working for Paul Reed Smith Guitars in the paint factory. And he was painting guitars, but it turns out that he was colorblind. So,
Okay.
That's one of
hopefully
those.
he read the label.
That's one of those things too, where it's like, just say yes, I can do it.
Well, that leads me to a great point because the other thing I took away was, for me personally, I learned how to say yes and then figure it out later.
Yes.
You know, if there's something that you want to do badly enough, or some way that you want to, you know, move yourself forward, sometimes you have to just say yes, and you know, and then be confident in yourself that you're going to figure it out. You know, so I think I would do that sometimes with gigs that I knew maybe were a little bit over my head, but I would say yes to it and then go work really hard to try to figure out how to make it work. I've done that with upright bass. Honestly, I'm not a by trade an upright bass player, but I've said yes to the ask before because I knew that if I had a week of time, I can get into shape to play in tune. I can make little marks and I can, you know, figure it out enough to do it well. And that's worked in my favor sometimes, and it's also totally backfired at times.
Really?
So
Yeah, you gotta try, right?
you do, yeah, absolutely.
So then you graduated. The networking seemed to work out right away. So after you graduated, you moved to Atlanta?
I moved to Atlanta. So as I was finishing, well, backing up, at the end of that year of 98, 99, or 90, no, it was the end of 97, 98. So I had become friends with, I was roommates with John, and I'd become friends with Clay Cook. So Clay is a bandmate of mine in Zac Brown Band. And back then, Clay was a co-collaborator with Mayer. And he lived across the hallway from us on the 7th floor. And so Clay and John had started writing these songs together. And they were really onto something. They were writing some great songs. And they decided to move to Atlanta, where Clay was from. He had some music industry connections, and he knew some places, some studios where they could go record their material. So they wanted me to come down with them at that time. And I sort of struggled with that decision. And ultimately decided that I wanted to finish school. So I decided not to go, seek that part of it and finish the studies. And I think that was a good decision.
Can you explain more on that? Because a lot of people, I feel like, probably would have just went, right? So what about that opportunity where you're like, actually, let me just focus on my academic work right now?
I felt that I had an obligation to finish. I didn't want to start something that I wasn't going to finish. I had set out to do this, and I felt like, out of respect for maybe people in my family who hadn't had the opportunity to go to college or who hadn't done that I was going to finish this one thing that I said that I was going to do.
That's deep.
That's kind of why I stayed.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that I did, because, again, I met more people. I made more connections. I made a lot of great friends, and I loved being in Boston too. So I stayed, and then at the end of that time, I had been talking to John again. He said, well, hey, come on down. I've got an extra room, and I've got some connections. I can help you get a job. So I moved down there, and I started interning at a recording studio with these guys who, they ran an ad agency inside of a studio, and it was called 60 Second Airborne, and they did 30 and 60-second radio spots.
Nice.
And so these guys were amazing voice actors. And so I interned there. I learned how to run their really complicated coffee machine, clean the floors, but also I got to learn how to edit voiceovers. So I learned about, how to cut out dead time, how to get basically all of your text copy that's a minute long down to 30 seconds.
Okay.
So that was a great sort of, editing boot camp for me, having to do all of that. And I got to meet some interesting voice actors. Like, I met the guy who did the voice of Space Ghost. This is like on TBS, back in the early 2000s. These guys were on the radio. One of the guys who was my boss was the voice of the Superstation. So he was the guy that at the end, when the credits were rolling on the movie, he would say, "Coming up next on the Superstation, it's Back to the Future."
That's cool.
Do you wake up in cold sweats at night thinking,
Yeah.
Up next, the client?
So that's what got me to Atlanta.
Okay.
And that's where you met Zac Brown?
That's where I met Zac. So in that time in Atlanta, I was living with John, and this is right around when I moved down there. He was in talks to get his record deal with Columbia. So right around the time that I moved, he had just inked the deal, and he started touring, and he started working on making his first record, Room for Squares. So I would say after about 8 months of living down there, he made Room for Squares, and then he needed to they had booked this big U.S. tour. It was going to be the first tour, national tour that he was doing with a full band. And he was doing auditions in Atlanta, and he was auditioning. He had a bass player, David Labriere, and he was auditioning drummers and guitar players. And so he kept auditioning all these guys, and no one was quite the right fit for him. And one day we were sitting around the house, and he said, "Hey, you know all my songs on guitar, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I know all your songs on guitar. I've been hearing them for years." And he said, "You want to come on the road?" I said, "And do what? Play guitar?" He said, "Yeah." He said, you can use my amp or whatever, and use my guitars." And I said, "Okay, yeah, why not? I'll go on the road." So I became the guitar player in his first band on the Room for Squares tour. And actually, the week before our first show, 9/11 happened in New York City, and in the whole country. And so that kind of put the whole tour on a big question mark. Are we even going to go do this? And our first show was in New York City.
Wow.
So there was a lot of, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? And I think they ultimately decided that, it was safe enough to get there. We're going to go through with it. So we loaded up the van and trailer, and headed up to New York City. And when it, and mind you, this is 1 week after the attacks had happened. So the city was still super shell shocked and still cleaning up. And I won't forget that sight of driving in, just seeing people hosing off their businesses, their buildings, their rooftops or whatever. But the show that we did was at Irving Plaza, and I won't forget that show because it was sort of the first thing that young people had done since this attack. They hadn't really gone out and been entertained or had a chance to release. So it was a great moment at Irving Plaza. And I remember he said, he was talking during one of the songs, he kind of breaks it down and does his monologues. And he said, we've had, up to this point, we have lots of moments of silence, and now we're going to have a moment of music. And
beautiful.
It was pretty meaningful.
Yeah.
So that doesn't answer your question. I met Zac in the middle of that tour. We would come home on a break. I would go play down in the bars in Buckhead, and I met Zac outside of a bar in Buckhead.
Wow.
So we started talking, and at that time he was playing covers, strictly covers. I think he had started writing a few songs, but out in West Georgia where he was going to school. So I started playing with him in bars back then in the early 2000s.
Wow.
So then you finished that tour, and you say, okay, I did that. And so then what happens after that?
So during the end of that first tour, I had some friends who lived up here in Nashville. So Casey Dreesen is a alum, Berkeley, 2000 also. He also lived across the hall from me in that same, on the 7th floor.
I'm so jealous. My college roommate works for the American Dental Association.
I had some cool roommates. Actually, one of my other roommates was Mark Kelly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know that he's done this podcast.
Yeah, he's an old friend of the show.
Definitely go listen to it if you haven't.
I've had luck with roommates.
Yeah.
So my wife is a great roommate too. Say that.
Yeah.
So what was I saying? Well, I lost my train of thought.
Came
you were
up to
saying
Nashville.
after the tour.
Oh yeah, so after the tour,
Yes.
So Casey lived here in Nashville, and he had started working with another gentleman named Luke Bulla, who's an amazing Texas fiddle player. He's played in Lyle Lovett's band for a lot of years. And Luke had started writing some songs, and they're like, on a break, they said, come on up here, let's hang out and play some music. So I started coming up here and playing with them, and we were all really connected, and they had asked me to join their band. It was called Wise Child.
Wow.
So I got really excited about that, about being part of this band. And so the tour was wrapping up with John, and I kind of saw Casey had an extra room at his place in Nashville, and I saw an opportunity to sort of be more involved in the production, basically the creation of the music. So with John, it was amazing. It was awesome playing his songs, but in the end, I was playing his songs.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really contributing to the product, and that was kind of, all along what I had wanted to do. I'd wanted to be able to contribute musical ideas, be a part of the production, work in the studio on the final product.
Mm-hmm.
So I reluctantly told John, I'm moving to Nashville. I want to pursue this other thing. I want to play bass. And he was great with it. And it opened him up. He had to find another guitar player, but he found some amazing guitar players to replace me, which, he deserved that. So when you have a bass player playing guitar, you know how that goes. No, I wasn't too bad. I was pretty good. But so I took another chance, and I moved up here and started working with Wise Child. That's sort of what got me here.
So you said in various stages throughout your career, you've said, I'm going to move on from this and go to that, where, comfortable situations where you said, I need to follow my gut here and go somewhere else. Do you see a theme in when you were making those decisions, those difficult decisions about where your career was going next?
I do, yeah. I mean, anytime you have to make a big career decision like that, you wrestle with it, I think.
Mhm.
And I wrestled with leaving what I was doing with John, which was pretty remarkable. I mean, not that what I was doing was remarkable, but the whole situation was remarkable because I got to go see his whole career go from where we started, which was van and trailer, going touring around the country, loading up our own gear, to within 3 or 4 months starting to see when the label money kicked in, starting to see the advertisements and see that uphill climb, and switching to a bus. Now we're on a tour bus, not in a van, and seeing the shows go from small clubs that were standing room only to where they would have to switch it to a bigger theater, standing room only, and really watching the trajectory of that skyrocket was, like I said, it was remarkable. But also wanting this different thing, wanting to be a part of the creative process, and wanting to, really help drive that final product.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk about a lot in our episodes is like the importance of pivoting, like knowing when to pivot in a career. So can you just speak more on that, on like your decision making on pivoting and kind of just going from one extreme to the next, or like saying like, okay, my time is up here, I'm going to venture off and do another thing?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, when it comes to pivoting or switching directions, there's a lot of just sort of following the flow, like it's like when they say when you get caught in a rip current in the ocean, right? They tell you, don't fight it, don't try to swim against it, don't try to swim to shore, let the current take you, and eventually it will bring you back to where you need to be, right? And I think that that there's a similar aspect of that with your career, with whatever you're doing. If you're open and you listen, you can kind of follow it. You can kind of feel where you need to be. So when I was working here at this studio, and I got, and mind you, these we're talking about like amazing opportunities,
Right.
and it doesn't always happen this way. And I feel so blessed to have met Zac and worked with Zac and have the opportunities that he's thrown at me,
Right.
and he really puts a lot of faith in his people to use the tools that he supplies you with to do something with it. So when I was here at the studio and I got the call to come play in the band, and again, I wrestled with it. I have a young, baby at home, and I knew that I would be gone. And I started to do the math on it, and I realized that if I went on the road, the amount of hours that I would be gone would be less than the amount of hours I spent here at the studio every day. Because I don't know, I mean, you guys spent time in studios. If it's a cool studio, it sucks you in. Like I can remember telling my wife, okay, I'll be home at 8:00 tonight. And then at 11:00, calling her saying, I'm going to be another hour. And then at 2:00 texting, okay, I think I'm going to head home now.
Oh boy.
And it's just, they suck you in.
You hit that flow state.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I would say, again, staying in the flow and not trying to force something to be what it's not. But it's hard because they are tricky decisions to make, and you don't want to make the wrong one.
But then you did find yourself in a situation where someone let you play the bass.
I finally got to play the bass. They knew I could do it.
There you go.
Well, yeah. Thank you. I think now we're going to open it up
Great.
to our audience. If anyone has any questions
This is my Oprah moment.
for Matt.
You get a car.
Everyone gets a car. Look under your seat. No.
My name is Audrey.
Hi.
What are some of your favorite songs to play on bass or guitar for either Zac Brown Band or John Mayer?
Good question. When I played with John, I loved playing Neon. Because he still does it too. We would break it down in the middle to this sort of dual guitar jam part where everyone kind of gets on a different 16th note, and it gets really bouncy and funky, and it's a lot of fun. With Zac Brown Band, he has a song called Free. It's a very mellow ballad, and I love playing that song. And it's actually really challenging to play. You wouldn't think it's that hard, but there's the way that the rhythm locks in with the bass and the kick drum. It's so hard to get exactly with Sweets. He's our drummer, on that one spot. So I love playing it because the song puts me in a trance, but also I know I have to work and pay attention.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Allison.
Hi.
I'm just curious, what initially brought you to Berkeley? Like, why did you choose Berkeley as your school of choice?
So when I was trying to figure out where I was going to go to school, I had applied to the University of Southern California, and I wanted to major in computer science. And I got accepted, and I was ready to go. And I had another friend in town who was a drummer named Joe Miller, and he started talking about this place called Berkeley College of Music, and I'd never heard of it. And I said, tell me more. And so he told me all about it, and he wanted to go there. And so I started looking into it, and it seemed really interesting. And I thought, man, I didn't think that music was going to be a thing for me other than, playing local gigs, after that point in my life. And so I started to look into it more, and I ended up applying and got in and said goodbye to the computer science idea. So that's kind of what got me there. But it was not on my radar for most of my life.
Just going with the flow.
Just went with the flow again. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jordan. So many people, students at Berkeley especially, come a little bit later in life, right? Not 18, 17, 19 years old. And I think this is true across so many disciplines in the world now. Folks in their 30s, 40s changing careers. My question for you is, how have you managed your professional life and your personal life? You mentioned that pivot point earlier with your young child, and we know you've had a family and all that. How have you navigated that?
Well, it's definitely not easy, but with, my wife, when we met, I was already working as a musician. And so she understood where I was with touring. That's all she's ever known is me touring. So that was always sort of the baseline. And getting to work with Zac and play in the band was actually a huge blessing because of the way that they tour is very, it's weekends. A lot of country acts do it that way, but he's to the point where he can pick and choose what shows he wants to do. So we're never really gone for more than 3 or 4 days, with the exception of, if we have to go overseas for a couple of weeks. So I try to be intentional with the time that I spend at home with my family and turn off everything else and be present with the kids and with Emily. It's not always easy because, I take on other roles in the band, so sort of more of a music director kind of role. And I also handle a lot of live audio or rehearsal recordings. I edit all that down and I make charts for the guys and make, study guides for everyone or materials that we can use to study from. So it takes up more time, which is kind of what I'm in the middle of right now. So I have to work forcing myself to, put away the keyboard and mouse and come up and just sit with the kids and be there. So it's definitely challenging, but I think being intentional, trying to spend as much time as possible when I am home is probably the key to that.
That's so important. I mean, just, especially when you're working with other people and then there's that sense of responsibility, but to also say like, yeah, but I also have these other people that are kind of important to me.
It is, it's for me personally, it's hard to say no.
which is why you're here.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I wanted to do this. This is awesome. But it's hard to say no, and someone will make an ask, and I'm trying to train myself to say no, but also I want to do these things. I want to, I want to edit the work tapes for our rehearsals, and so I can make sure that all of our parts are in line, and I want to sync the audio with the time code for the show, because I want to make sure that everything is perfectly timed right and in sync. I care about those things. I care about the presentation of the show, and I love the detail and the minutia of producing a show and producing a record. And so I will say yes to those things, sometimes to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
When you love what you do, it's so hard.
Right.
I have a question. Hi, my name's Colleen. So you mentioned Lo-Fi Masters, and I think that we're probably going to throw a song in there. Can you talk a little bit about Lo-Fi Masters and what that is?
Sure. So Lo-Fi Masters was the group that John Mayer and Clay Cook started at school, and was their sort of band name. So I got to be the bass player in Lo-Fi Masters. And so John had started writing songs in the dorm room. He wrote Victoria. And so when he started writing the song, he would get with Clay, and he and Clay would finish the songs. So they wrote Neon, they wrote Love Soon, if you know any of the early deep cuts of John. They wrote No Such Thing.
Comfortable? Wasn't Comfortable in there too?
Comfortable. More than half of that first Room for Squares record was written by John and Clay. And so Lo-Fi Masters was their band, and that was the name that they released their first, demos or whatever under. So I do have some gems from the dorm room.
Nice.
And it's cool. We recorded Comfortable. So any of you familiar with the song Comfortable from John Mayer? So it was this, the first sort of ballad that he wrote, and every female who heard the song was just like, oh my God, he's speaking straight to me. It's like, it has the lyric, I loved you. You were so perfect. I loved you. Gray sweatpants, no makeup, so perfect. Like every, 21-year-old girl was just thought that he was singing straight to her.
I mean, let's be realistic. Every 48, whatever age, come on now.
So we had this idea to record this song, to produce it more than just a guitar vocal. So we got a drummer to come in the room and do some like light marching, snare, percussion. And then we got an orchestra, a little 3-piece orchestra to come in the room. And I think we might have even overdubbed it. Like we did cello, then we did violin, and then, like that. But it became this sort of, cult classic with John. And if you remember, John's career sort of skyrocketed with Napster. So that was kind of how his music spread across the country, was through these MP3 sharing sites. And so Comfortable, our dorm room recording of Comfortable, was one of those songs. And so when he made his first, his EP had Comfortable on it, and they ended up remixing it, but they used, my tracks that we recorded in Studio 737 on that record. So,
and was it Mark Kelly that was responsible to take Colleen to Faux Basil?
The funny thing is, I do remember, it's so weird, at Berkeley, and we probably all had this experience where certain people, like, you're just like, they're going to make it. And John was, his songwriting and everything. Plus, his guitar playing was phenomenal too. But I think with that, it was so cool. Like, I had to look the other way. Though I do remember the Regiment Horns guys, apparently I threatened to have them kicked out for drinking in the dorms. They told me this recently, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I don't remember that at all. Like, this is horrible.
You had a job to do, Colleen.
I know.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
John
you.
had this sort of magnetic aura around him, and he had the ability to just get attention, no matter what it was. And it might not have even been with music. It could have been some shtick that he was doing, like, one day he wrapped an entire roll of toilet paper around his face, around his head.
I have
and
photos
made eye
with
holes.
that.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was just this, he just knew how to get people to like him, whether, like I said, whether it was music or just his
Personality,
wackiness.
yeah.
So there were so many great times that we had in our our big dorm room, and they were always sort of clever and focused around music and what he wanted to do with his career. So I will say that John, seeing the way that he pursued his career, it made a huge impression on me, and it helped me understand, what I needed to do for myself to pursue something in a career. So if I hadn't gone to Berklee or hadn't made that connection, I'm sure I would have done something that I'm happy with, but I don't know if I would be doing what I'm doing on this scale or level.
Computer science.
Maybe so.
Can you imagine?
Maybe so.
That's cool though. Everything works out.
Yeah. I think so.
Any other questions?
Alrighty.
Well, thank you, man. Oh, yeah.
Oh yes.
Hi, I'm Tommy McDonald, class of 83, dorm room 637.
Okay, you were right below. You know the room.
I know exactly. The minute you brought that up,
That's where
my
Zac
God.
Bryan lived in 637. Oh, was it? Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, we talked about a lot of amazing stuff you did over the years, coming up to this point, and you're talking about the Sphere that's coming up. Do you have your eyes pierced on anything else beyond that, or is Zach still going to keep trucking along after the Sphere gig?
In the immediate future, I'm looking forward to the break right after the Sphere. But we've got a 2026 tour being planned out right now, so we're gonna hit it hard. I think in 26, because 25, Sphere has basically in their contract, you can't do any. You have a 6-month period before your shows where you can't do any ticketed domestic shows. So we haven't really been doing any touring in the last 6 months.
Wow.
So 26.
But anything else beyond that? Like, are you looking at anything else like beyond, say, the Zach gig?
I've always got my sort of feelers out with something I can do in my spare time. I started producing a record for a girl here in town who is a prodigy, really 15-year-old singer and songwriter who's super talented. We cut a record here a couple months ago, and that's about to get finished. So I'm trying to keep some projects like that going when I have time. But I have to be careful that I don't say yes to everything. But I do enjoy doing those also.
What's her name?
Her name's Charlie George.
Nice.
So
Shout out to her.
you'll be hearing it soon.
Cool.
All right.
Well, Matt, thanks so much for taking the time to do
Thank
this.
you guys.
Thank you
Hope you
so
have
much.
enough to edit from.
Oh, absolutely.
It's gonna be hard to choose what to cut out for sure. And thank you.
Thank you all for coming. You laughed at 60% of my jokes, so that's pretty good. Pretty good high for me. Thanks to Southern Ground, and thanks to Hank.
Yes. Thank you, Hank.
Hank's the only one in this room that knows I'm a nose breather. So
What?
awesome.
But yeah,
Thanks
so
so much.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're back, and that concludes our live episode with Matt Mangano. It was such a treat to travel to Nashville and have this interview. I think having live episodes are becoming my favorite. It is such a good feeling seeing our audience and experiencing their reactions in real time. I look forward to the live episodes we will do in the future. Where to next? So, as you know, it is December, and this is the last episode of the year. It is so crazy how fast time flies. As mentioned in the podcast, playing us out today is a song by the Lo-Fi Masters called Comfortable, and this was recorded in Studio 737 on campus. The details of the song are John Mayer, vocals, Clay Cook, vocals, acoustic guitar, string arrangement, Stephen Robinson, drums, Matt Mangano, bass, engineer, mixer, Casey Dreesen, violin, Carrie Rodriguez, violin, and Jan Cho, cello. Happy holidays, everyone, and have a happy new year.
I just remembered that time at the market, snuck up behind me and jumped on my shopping cart and rode down aisle 5. You looked behind you to smile back at me, crashed into a rack full of magazines. Asked us if we could leave. Can't remember what went wrong last September, though I'm sure you'd remind me if you had to. Our love was comfortable and so broken in. I sleep with this new girl I'm still getting used to. My friends all approve, say she's gonna be good for you. They throw me high fives. She says the Bible is all that she reads and prefers that I not use profanity. Your mouth was so dirty. Life of the party, and she swears that she's artsy, but you could distinguish miles from Coltrane. Our love was comfortable and so I can't see the smile that she's faking and poses for pictures that aren't being taken. I